Hello, this is Christian here. In this video, we'll be looking at the if statements in PHP. So we'll take a look at the if statement, the if-else statement, and if-else-if statement. So first, the if statement is used when there's only a single course of action. This is a syntax for the if statement. There are two ways here you can see. The first one is when there is a single statement inside the if block. Then you don't really need the pair of curly braces like you see in the second condition down there. If you have multiple statements in that block, you have to use the pair of curly braces. Although it's always safe to use the curly braces even if there's only a single statement, and it is to use to prevent any logic errors. And we'll see examples of that in the code. So here is an actual PHP example to show the two different kind of statements there. If count is greater than 10, done is true. Right? And then the second one, if you have two statements. So you want to wrap those two statements inside a pair of curly braces so that they belong to the block of code. Okay, so if you don't do that, then the second message, the second statement, message equals all done, will be treated as on its own separate statement. The if-else statement is used when there are exactly two alternative courses of action. So here is the statement condition for that. This is the syntax. If a condition is true, then you run the statements in the body, in the if body. Else, and then you run the other statements in there. So a real example will be something similar to what we heard earlier, except now it says if the counter is greater than 10, then we might set the done variable to true, and we might reset the counter back to 0. Otherwise, or else, the counter is just going to be incremented by 1, assuming that if we start from 0, 1, or anything less than 10, then that will be incremented until we reach the counter equals 10 or greater. Okay? So the next one is the if-else-if statement. This is used when there are more than two alternative courses of action. So here is the syntax for that. The one I put inside the purple square brackets, the square brackets is not required. I just put a notation there to show you that this is optional. You don't have to have two in there. You can have more, or you can have just a one. Okay, actually the else again is also optional. You don't have to have it there, but of course if you need it, then that goes there at the end. So here you have the if condition, and then if that is true, you run the internal statements in that block. Else if you have the second condition to test. Okay, and then else if you have the third condition, and so forth until the end of that block. If you are interested in catching the catch all, then you would use the else there at the end to catch all if none of the above are true. Okay, so here's a real example of that situation, kind of similar to what we had earlier. So we'll say if the counter is greater than or equal to 10, then we want to set the message variable to the phrase 10 or more. Else, if it's greater or equal to 20, then we'll set message is 10 or more, 20 or more, and so on until the end. If none of the conditions above are true, then it must mean that the number or the counter must be less than 10, not including 10. Okay, so that is the if else, and if-else statements. So let's go into the code editor and see some of these examples in PHP. Okay, so here in the module 4, I'm going to create a file. We'll just call this a PHP file, and let's call it this is the if statements. All right, so here we go. The first one is just the plain if statements. Okay, this is again if you want just to test for one condition, or you're just gonna look at one side of the other, all the other actions, then this is when you use it. So for example, if you want to check if number is is falling into a certain range of numbers, or whether if a number is true or false, or whatever that case may be. You don't care the false statements or the true statements, and however you want to say it, then you will use that single if statements. So if I have a variable called, let's just say a number, and I set the number to 5. Okay, and if you want to know if the number is greater than 5, then you would say if num number is greater than 5. If that is true, if all I care about if it's that greater than 5, then maybe I want to also put a statement echo saying like, number is greater than 5. Something like that. So notice I'm using a single statement in the if block. So therefore I don't need to put the curly braces. You don't have to put it there. It'll be treated as a single statement. If you put a second statement, it'll be different in a different case altogether. So again, it's always good practice to wrap those into a single a pair of curly braces, just to protect your code, to prevent any logic errors. Okay, so if you were to run this code, you'll see that this is not true. So you're probably not going to see anything because 5 is not greater than 5, right? 5 is exactly 5. So therefore, this is not true. In that case, we're not going to see anything at all. Okay, so I'm going to go into the terminal and run this file. So in the module 4, and here is the file called if statements. So I'm going to clear this screen and type PHP if statements. Hit enter. You see that nothing is printed here because we did not set the catch-all for the non-matching value. However, if you change that to say greater or equal to 5, then now it's true because 5 is equal to or greater than 5. So if I save this now and go down here and do it again, press the up arrow key and just hit enter, you see that now we have the statement number is greater than 5. I should say greater than equal to 5, but you get the logic here. Okay, so now if I were to say, a second statement here, I put echo, and you can say something like number is 5. Number is, and instead of 5, just put here the actual number. I'll concatenate that with the number variable, and so it will print that on the console. But I'm going to put a /n here to make that carriage return. So if I save this again, if I run my script down here, let me clear the screen again. Up arrow key, hit enter. You see that it has two statements. It's greater than 5 and number is 5. So that is the case. I'm running two statements inside here, and they're wrapped inside the curly braces. Okay, now watch when I remove this curly brace. Okay, you see that it looks as if these two statements are belonging to the if block here. Okay, so if I run this again, let me just make this text a little bit meaningful. Greater than or equal to 5, right? Save that. Now I'm going to go down here and clear my screen and just run it again one more time. So here we go. You get the same result as before, except with a new statement. Number is greater than or equal to 5. Number is 5. Okay? So now, if I make this number like 2, and that's going to be false because 2 is not greater or equal to 5. Okay, so let's save this and go down here and clear my screen again. And this time I'm going to invoke the file, and you'll see that its number is 2. So why did that get printed? Okay, so this is one of the reasons why you have to wrap your statements in the curly braces. Otherwise, this is even though you look at this, it looks like as if they are belonging to the block of code. Had this been like a different language like Python, it might have been true because, well, you put that here for Python. But since it's not, you have to put put a curly braces. If this statement here is supposed to be a part of this if block, you have to wrap this with a curly braces like this. Okay. If you don't, then it may look like that to us, to the human eyes, but then in the code itself, actually it will look something like this. Okay, so you can see this is the actual block of the if block, and this one here is completely independent on its own, so it has nothing to do with the if block here. Okay, so if this is the case that you want to do it, then that's fine. If not, then again, it's always safe to wrap it within the curly brace. Okay, so I'm gonna just put it back into the curly brace just so now we don't have that problem. Okay, so that is the if statements. Again, it just if it's a condition in here, whatever the condition may be, then you will print that out. Okay, So the other one is the if-else statement. I'm going to go and turn all these off. I'll just leave the number on, but turn these off. This is the if-else. If-else. This is when you have you are you care about the alternative course of action, right? If A is true, then do that true part. Otherwise, also do the non-true part. Okay, so if that's important, then you will use this if-else block. So if, again, if I do number is greater or equal to 5, okay, if that's the case, then we want to say echo number is greater or equal to 5. Let's just put that here for now. Else, you will also want to say echo number is less than 5. Okay, so now we can tell, because whatever the case may be, we'll always get a response. Okay, so this is for this reason. And if I save it now, if I run the terminal again, let me clear the screen down here, up arrow twice, and you'll see that I'll get either one of the others. Okay, because no matter what, a user gotta get a response. And if this is the case, if it's important, and most of the time this is important, you will use for this case. Okay, so number is less 5. Even though it's false, it's gonna run the alternative course of action down here. All right. So the next one is then the if-else-if block. And to do something similar, I'm just going to copy what I have here, and I'll put it down here. Okay, and I'll turn these off for now so we don't have any confusion. Again, number is up here, and number is 2. Okay, so I'll put it right down here. This is the if-else-if. And so if I say if number is greater or equal to 5, number is greater or equal to 5. Okay, if else if, let's say else if, what I want to check, what else I want to do. This is dependent on how you want to solve this problem. Okay, so it's entirely up to you. Sometimes you may have only 1 or 2 cases to 3 cases to check. Sometimes you have 3, sometimes you have 10, sometimes you have n number of cases, right? So let's just say I have 4 cases I want to check. So if it's greater than 5, we'll just say greater or equal to 5. If it's maybe let's do this. If it's greater than 5, we'll just say if it's greater than 5. What if it's exactly 5? So we can say number is exactly 5, right? Then we say number is equal to 5. Okay, and then we have the other one, else if maybe a number is less than, let's just say 0. Okay, so it's a negative number. Then we want to say echo number is negative. And if it's not less than 0, if it's not greater than 5, if it's not exactly 5, then it must be less than 5, right? So this is the else part. This is the catch-all. You can say echo number is, you can say this, greater. Well, you can do something like, you can do one more if you want. You can do something like else if number is again 0, right? So it could be another case. Then echo number is 0 equals 0. Else if none of the above is true, then number is 5. Or actually less than, you can say is greater than 0, or just gonna put like greater than 0, and number is less than 5, not inclusive. Okay, so you can see I have actually I wanted to only test 3 or 4, but I got a few more. So I have one condition, a second condition, third, fourth, and the fifth one here it's a catch-all. So you can say, you're not going to say else condition. You cannot do that because again, this is the it's like the default if none of these are true. And also you can see that I can't put else up here. I put else if down here. Okay, it must be in this order. The else part has to be the last statement in the if else or if else if block here. It cannot be above it. Okay. So now if we were to run this code, because our number is 2, so we'll see that 2, this is not true, 2 is not equal to 5, 2 is not less than 0, 2 is not equal to 0, so 2 must be greater than 0 and less than 5. So that's the true case, right? So we can save this now and go to the terminal down here, and again run that statement. You'll see that number is greater than 0 and less than 5, and that is true. We could print number out. We didn't print number out, but we could. So now if you change the number to say exactly 5, then we expect to get this statement here. Okay, so if I go back and clear the screen, up arrow twice, and you see the number is equal to exactly 5. And last but not least, we can try a negative 5. Okay, so save that, and we run it again, we should get a negative number. Okay, so that is how you will construct the if-else-if block. This part here, you'll see that I put a space in here. PHP doesn't really matter. You can put else there with a space or not. It's completely legit. Okay, it's okay. You can put a lot of spaces. It doesn't matter. You can put, multi-line. It doesn't matter. Okay, because white space is ignored in cases like this. So you can even put all these in a single long string of text. It doesn't matter. It's just really hard to read. All right. So in this case, it's completely fine. Okay. So as you can see, if I run this, if I change this to say, 7, this should be is greater than 5. So it must be this case. And so if I save this and run a terminal, you'll see that it should be greater than 5, which is correct, right? So it's very flexible in this situation of the white space. I think most languages, well, not, I should say most of them, it's just PHP will do this. If you try to do this in Java or C#, it's not going to be correct. All right, so now the order is important. Okay, let me just clean this up a little bit. I'm going to go back to what I was before. It's kind of, as you can see, it's really hard to look at because we're just used to seeing cleanly indented code, right? So make your code really easy to look at, to see. Now again, this order is important in most situations, because if, let's just say, you have a certain condition that is both true in certain cases, and if that first one is the catch-all, then the rest will never be executed, because whatever is true is going to be run. The code's going to go right in here, and the interpreter is going to go in here and run this line of code, so the rest will be ignored. Okay. Let me see if I think of an example for that. Well, let's just say that if I add another case in here, okay, let me close this. I'll add another case, say else if, let's just say the number is greater than 10, right? If greater than 10, I want to say echo number is greater than 10. Okay, and then we close the else if. So we added a new one there. So now if I put 7, so 7 is larger than 5, so that's true. So if I save this, run in a terminal, I'm going to clear my screen down here, and you see that it is larger than 5. Okay, now what if I put in here like 17? Okay, so 17, let me just comment this out, close this out. So 17 is larger than 5, actually it is larger than 10. But when I run it down here, you see that all you get is, it just says larger than 5, right? You would never, in this case, you would never reach this second part here, because this is already true. Okay, so you would never get to run this statement because of this. If it's anything else other than this part, then it will be skipped to the rest of the code down here, and this will never get executed. So therefore, be very careful when you do this. If you want to do something like this, then you have to put this 10 first. Get 10 first, and then 5 down here will be the opposite. And then you put greater than 10, and then greater than 5. So now you see that if I put as 17, if I save this again and run down here, you see that it's greater than 10. Now if I put back to say 7, okay, if I save this, because it's not greater than 10, then it goes to the next block. Is it greater than 5? Yes. So now it says it's greater than 5. So now if I run this, you'll see that it's now greater than 5. Okay, so it's really easy to do these if blocks in here. These conditionals are very easy to do in most times, but it can get very confusing because the order it can play a really important role. So we want to really make sure that every condition you test in here, make sure they are very exclusive, and one does not conflict with the other, or one does not kind of like swallow all of it, and the other is you left with like it's for nothing. So like the one we had earlier, if I was swap the 5 and the 10 would never get executed. It's like, why is it there? Okay, so these are the 3 different kinds of if statements you will find in most of your program.